So what about the southern lights? What about the aurora australis and Tasmania? So don't go to Norway because it's too cold in the winter. Maybe go to the winter in Tasmania and not the aurora borealis, but the aurora australis.
I know. Can you believe I chose that clip to start the show? Me, living in Norway, being a Norwegian citizen now. Blasphemy. Blasphemy. Anyway, I chose that because I did want to give you a sense of what you're going to hear in this fun episode today. That is our guest, Andrew Nelson. He's a writer and editor at large for National Geographic Traveler magazine. Andrew is a two-time winner of the prestigious Lowell Thomas Award in recognition of travel journalism, and he has a new book called Here Not There, which offers alternative destinations to those places that are getting overcrowded and, quote, loved to death, which is something we talk about in this conversation. So you're going to get some intriguing alternatives in this episode and maybe some food for thought on where to plan your next trip. Some bucket list fodder, if you will. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to get into it now. So buckle up, strap in. Thanks for being here, and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, what's up? It's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. And I always love alternative destination recommendations. I think that it can open up travel in so many ways. And I wanted to share something on the back end of this conversation. If you're curious, I had an alternative destination experience last year that saved me. I mean, I probably paid a fifth of what I would have paid if I had gone to my original choice. Now, these two destinations are nothing alike, and I'm going to talk about that because sometimes the alternative destination isn't based on the destination itself and what it has to offer, but it may be more based around something else. Maybe this will give you some food for thought as you go about your day after this episode. So stick around for that, and I'll leave you with a quote. For now, please enjoy my conversation with Andrew Nelson. You can find his work at andrewtnelson.com. We'll link up to everything in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the other side. Cheers. Andrew Nelson, welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend. How you doing today?
It's good to be here and live from Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
At 8 a.m. We are in drive time.
That's right, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I mean, what's the vibe like there nowadays? What are some of your favorite parts of that area?
Charleston is such an interesting city, and its evolution from where it was in the last part of the 20th century to where it is in the first part of the 21st has been nothing short of astounding in terms of its growth, its explosion of restaurants here. You know, you've got this sort of mix of old world charm because the colonial and antebellum areas of Charleston are gorgeous. It's illegal to tear down any houses there, and very well preserved. Plus, you've got the beaches on either side of the city. So you get this combination of, I guess, South Florida and old history. So maybe Miami Nice, not Vice. One of the things that I find so moving is the International African American Museum, which just opened this year. This is a place which is devoted to the African American experience in Charleston, which was not a pleasant one. It's erected on the site of the Gadsden Docks, which is the place where the slaver ships would come in. it sort of explores the journeys and the achievements of the enslaved, their struggle for freedom. So it's really, really moving. And I would encourage people to visit, and you'll just be blown away by the entire thing. Have you been to Charleston?
It's one of the places I haven't been that I've been wanting to go, but it makes me so happy to hear, when you hear about museums like this opening up, and you could go into Charleston, you hear how it's so charming, and that charm was built off the backs of slavery. Those stories need to be told. You get the full picture of how the town came to be. You don't just get the fancy veneer.
It's quite a moving experience, and I would encourage anybody who is in Charleston to investigate it.
And you can hear just from talking about where you're at right now and how deep you went, why you were the man for this book, because your curiosity about these things takes you into learning them.
I teach a class in strategic narrative and placemaking at the College of Charleston. It's a combination taught between the business school and the comm school. And we talk about storytelling and how to tell stories about place. And literally, their petri dish is they just step outside the classroom and they're in the, because it's downtown Charleston, you're in the middle of it. Charleston is a beautiful example of that, but anybody anywhere can look into their community and figure out what's the essence of place. So anyway, okay, we dove right into Charleston.
We have of course, the 100 in the book, so you have to get the book to see all of those. This is actually a topic we've covered on the show before, and I love this, the idea of unexpected destinations and the idea of going to places that are less touristed, but you can't say the same experience because it can be sometimes a different country, a different culture, but maybe a similar vibe. We can talk about that. But I had one more question before we dive into the list, because I saw that you are into urban spelunking. I was wondering if you've ever been arrested or trespassed anywhere.
No, close. I always figure it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Close to being arrested?
Yeah. Well, no. Yes. But, you just always sort of, if you see an open door, I always say walk through it. You might never know what you'll find on the other side.
Yeah. What's the weirdest thing you've found walking through an open door?
I don't think I can say on a family podcast.
Well, I mean, you can certainly say there's all ages here.
Let's put it this way. I walked into a door was ajar in what I thought was an abandoned building, and walked in, and there was a couple being rather romantic in the middle of the old living room.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was guessing. I was guessing more of an orgy situation, I guess. In my
well, no, I think they would be a little bit noisier, and
it's a strange thing to walk in on either way.
Yeah, because you haven't dressed for the occasion.
No, well,
right.
You could have get undressed for the occasion. Well, what did you do? You just turn tail and be like, "Excuse me."
Yeah, well, yes, I didn't even do that. I just turned tail. And
in terms of the book, Here Not There, with this, let's get into the 7 destinations. And I just pulled a quote from the book. You can talk a little bit more about your criteria for the list and sort of how you frame it up in your own head, or what that process was like for you. But the quote I just wanted to read is in the book: "Sadly, we have discovered we can love a place to death." That to me was sort of the crux of the whole entire book, right? Like, this is part of the spirit behind it is, hey, there's a lot of world to explore. Let's just give you some other options in terms of having similar vibes and experiences, but not being jam-packed with a million other people. I was in Rome earlier this year, and I forgot how it is and it was off season and everything, but just like even just in the Vatican Museum, it's so many people just running through like a river. And, the idea that you're going to stop and look at something without getting run over is, that's a good example of but there's only one place you can see the Sistine Chapel. And, that is there. So maybe some of these things come with a trade-off.
What is your experience going to be in the Sistine Chapel or the Eiffel Tower or any other iconic destination? We get sort of just overwhelmed by all of this. And then what can you do?
Well, you can find another place to go, I guess.
Right. Well, right. And that's sort of the interesting thing to me. So, for example,
Are we going to get into the list here?
yeah,
Should we?
well, we can do. Yeah, we can talk about. You want to just go? And here's a really great example of one that I think might work, which is Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore instead of Cape Cod. Cape Cod had 3.9 million visitors. It's crowded. You have a hard time getting there. Less than half that number visit Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore in the Lower Peninsula on Lake Michigan in the state of Michigan. So why this is similar is because Sleeping Bear Dunes has a wonderful sandy coast with huge sand dunes. It even has an equivalent nearby fun town like Provincetown, which is Traverse City. You've got this beach, and the color of the water, Jason, is Caribbean blue.
Yeah, I've been. Yeah, it's incredible.
Oh, you've been there. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
are you familiar with the legend, the Ojibwa legend?
No, it's been so long. I see. I had a long relationship with a girl from a woman from Michigan, so I've spent a lot of time around Michigan, and I think it's one of those hidden gem states,
Right.
especially with the nature. Yeah.
Right. Well, if you can imagine, so, the Sleeping Bear Dune rises about 460 feet. But what's happened is that the winds blowing in over from Wisconsin have created these dunes. And the two islands were too little, the legend has it that the sleeping bear was a mother bear. And there were enormous forest fires in Wisconsin, which caused the mother bear and her. So remember, geography, Wisconsin is directly across the lake from Michigan. So mother bear and her two cubs started swimming towards Michigan. Mother bear clambered on shore, but the two little bears never made it, and they drowned and became these two islands that the mother bear, this giant sleeping bear dune, 460 feet tall, constantly watches over. It's a beautiful Native American story.
In that example, and probably some of the other ones, it's like you could say there are similar characteristics between the two places in terms of, okay, you have nature, you have a town nearby. This is kind of how you were pairing these alternative options. Would that be?
Yeah, well, I always keep in mind, I always like to travel with, a family in mind, a dentist and her husband from Cincinnati. They sit right here on my shoulder. When they travel, they want something that's going to sort of be that classic National Geographic mix of adventure, natural wonder, culture, and history. And of course, because all of us like some good food and maybe a glass of wine at the end of the day after our hiking's done. So,
nice. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Well, and you
All
can
right.
get that at Traverse City. One funny thing about Traverse City is that it is the only place I know where it has a working lighthouse atop a hotel, the Park Place Hotel. It's a 10-story sort of Art Deco-y looking hotel built in the 1930s. Yeah, it can't turn off without the permission of the U.S. Coast Guard. So,
okay.
You've got a lighthouse. You're sleeping under a lighthouse.
Nice. All right. Let's go to your number 2 pick. And this is your call. I don't know if you've prioritized these in terms of your favorite to.
I have another Michigan choice, which is probably pretty insane for most people when you say.
Are you going to go? You only got 7 now, Andrew. Are you going to go double Michigan here with this list?
Yeah, I'm going to go double. Well, here's why.
Okay.
Because
this says a lot.
Yeah. Well, I said if you're looking for beaches and you also like Art Deco, we always think of a place like Miami Beach. And I'm here to tell you that what you really should do is head to Detroit. As of this writing, it's the only UNESCO City of Design in the United States because it's got these spectacular Jazz Age skyscrapers, factories, and even, jazz bars. of course, you've got, like Miami, there are a couple beaches where you can sort of work on your tan between going on Art Deco history tours. Caveat, only in the summer. Okay, so we'll give Miami January, but
I like it. Well, I like it. I mean, it's totally unorthodox. I mean, it's going to be a hard sell. If you want to go to Miami and you're like, oh, let's go to Detroit instead, you're probably going to get a hard no from your travel partner.
You never know. Detroit's, there's a lot of amazing things. It's got the largest techno festival in the United States in May. There's a lot of things that are going on there right now, but it's become kind of hip. So what was booming in the 1920s? Henry Ford's Model T and the U.S. auto industry. Detroit was the capital. It was the Silicon Valley of the day, where modernity was being created in Detroit. And lots of money was being made. So to express that modernity, you used your lots of money and you built amazing Art Deco skyscrapers. Like I'm thinking like the Guardian building, which is just gorgeous. That's illustrated in my book with these amazing sort of Mayan designs in it. You kind of feel like you're in this sort of trippy Blade Runner-y lobby, and it's really great. There's the Penobscot building, and the Fisher building is probably my favorite because it's got so much amazing detail in it. So even just, for example, the elevator grills are just, why don't we make buildings like this anymore, Jason?
Money.
Yeah, but the money is there. I think people have just decided that we're not worthy of this sort of beauty. And I think it's time we reevaluate that, right?
I mean, where I live, it's not the same approach.
I know, but also I think, Europe's been better able to preserve its old buildings, but and I'm not.
But
saying
I mean, even
that
in the new ones, I think people appreciate good design and a good aesthetic, and so it is, sad when the money part of it becomes so intrusive that the design, the aesthetic isn't even that's not considered, but it's almost like an afterthought instead of the main sort of thing the project's built around.
Well, I will tell you that one of the most fun Art Deco buildings, and the Art Deco Society of Detroit, they're very active, as you can imagine, doesn't consider it Art Deco. I'll tell you what they think of it in a minute, is the Fox Theater, which I think people can remember from that famous M&M commercial for GM or something, about 10 years ago in the Super Bowl. But it's this amazing, crazy, over the top, incredibly decorated theater. It's got everything you would ever, I mean, there's so much going on in it, and it's all done in this strange, different mix of styles. So the guide that I went with, the author at the Detroit Art Deco Society, describes it as Byzantine Siamese. Remember the 1920s, motion pictures were a brand new technology. Nobody's going to build a palace to TikTok, are they?
No. Yeah, I'm looking at it now on some images. It is spectacular.
There's also a church, the National Shrine of the Little Flower Basilica in Royal Oak, which is another amazing Art Deco church. It's got this zigzag facade, and it was founded by this real controversial priest who used this new medium called radio to get very famous. He had fairly conservative views. He picked fights with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Anyway, his Father Coughlin's legacy is this Shrine of the Little Flower, and it's beautiful. So you can walk around that too. One of my favorite bars in the world is Cliff Bell's. It's a jazz club. It's just gloriously swanky. And it is full of these sort of crazy Art Deco touches or old school touches. You feel like you walked into a film noir movie from the 1940s. It is just great. You can't help but feel swanky when you go there. And you feel like you're on a movie set, but it is there. The other one is at the Metropolitan Building's Monarch Club. And the big thing in a lot of these old skyscrapers that have been repurposed into apartments and hotels is a terrace or penthouse rooftop dining and drinking. And my favorite is the Siren Hotel. It's got this old Hollywood look. You can go up there, have a cocktail, look at the entire city. It's really great. You'll feel like maybe Al Capone.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
really, it's a great place. So,
All right, are we leaving Michigan? Or you're not going to
yes, well, let us leave Michigan.
You're not going
because-
triple Michigan, right?
No,
we
I
can't
can't
do
go
that.
triple
That's it.
Michigan.
The world's too big.
I can't. But we can go a little further down. How about Indianapolis? What do you think about that?
You're staying in the Midwest.
Well, listen, the Midwest is one of my favorites. I think, much maligned and overlooked and regions
I
of the
agree.
country.
I think it's a hidden gem for travel in the United States. But we have to leave the continent after this. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Okay, well, why don't we do this? And let's say
You can skip around a little bit, I mean,
yeah,
if you're willing.
Well, here's one that'll make you smile.
Okay.
Because as we all know, Norway is the home of the Northern Lights. So what about the Southern Lights? What about the Aurora Australis and Tasmania? So don't go to Norway because it's too cold. In the winter, maybe go to the winter in Tasmania, and not the Aurora Borealis, but the Aurora Australis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think I am. Anyway, Southern Lights, they can appear at any time, but the island of Tasmania is the furthest southernmost point of, it's like the Key West, I guess, of Australia. It's the furthest south you can get, looking towards Antarctica. You can go and see them, but of course, Hobart, which is a fabulous city, very Victorian. It's got that, Aussies, they're, sort of happy-go-lucky and congenial. And boy, I'm probably going to hear some from Australians going, no, we're not. But, it's got that open personality that I think Americans really, really like. As somebody once told me, Australia is what America would have been like if you guys had lost the Revolutionary War. And that's not a bad thing to be, I don't think. Anyway, that's something. And you can go probably down to the South Arm Peninsula, which is about 25 miles due south of the Tasmanian capital. You might be able to see them, or you go sort of down to, I don't know how you're going to pronounce it, right? Recherche Bay, which is a 2-hour drive. It's a 2-hour drive from Hobart, so due south, and you can see them there. The other thing that you can see in Tasmania are fabulous national parks. It's got a lot of great national parks, and the one that's my favorite, there are about 18 of them, is Wineglass Bay and Tasman National Park. And you can also drive up to Mount Wellington, which is a 20-mile drive from Hobart, and have fantastic views. Interesting sort of piece of trivia about Tasmania. Do you know what famous old school movie star was from Tasmania? Do you know,
the
Jason?
Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes?
Well, no, but you're getting close, right?
Okay. Old school movie star.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
A
gonna guess.
swashbuckler. Hint?
Oh,
It's really old school. Errol
gonna
Flynn.
Okay.
Errol Flynn, who was a very old school swashbuckler of the old Hollywood. I guess we're talking 30s and 40s. He's from Tasmania, so who knew?
Have you been to Tasmania?
No, unfortunately, I haven't been to Tasmania because, remember, this book was written during COVID and Australia was closed.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So,
Yeah.
Me and my researcher, Karen Carmichael, just had a great time, reaching out to our contacts. And
Right.
it's...
You're just like, we can't travel, so we're going to travel anyway.
Well, yeah, you sort of travel vicariously. But, the thing is that what's so great is that there are so many things that, and so many people give you so much information. It's almost like, no, I should go myself. I get less information.
Yeah, sometimes less information is better. But, that's the that's the spirit of the list today too, right? Traveling vicariously.
Well,
So
yeah,
I mean,
and of course, because we all want to do that. This book is meant actually it encourages you to think outside the box. So what I want people to do is walk away from this list saying, "Wow, well, look at all of these alternatives. We were going to go here for summer vacation, but maybe we could go there."
mm-hmm.
You know?
Obviously you could use it for the actual recommendations, and you can also use it as inspiration to just as a mindset, right? Like,
Well, I know, and believe me, after Tasmania is on my bucket list, so hello Australia tourism. I would love to go exploring.
That's a great recommendation, but also I am based in Norway, so I'm a little like, all right, well, I don't know if I'll give it to you. It's okay. I'll let it slide. Andrew.
Well,
No,
Norway is not a poor country. So I think there are probably some Norwegian Greens who might say we could do with fewer people on the Atlantic Highway after which was A View to a Kill. Who was it? What Bond movie made that one famous?
I'm not sure, but the most
anyway, that's another book all there, which is basically what they call set jetting, which is what you probably already know about, which is going to see movie locales. So I don't know what else has been filmed in Norway recently. You guys have all those political thrillers on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't heard the term set jetting, but I like that. But
no,
I know that's
it's a thing. And
the most recent big production, the biggest one, was the last Mission Impossible when Tom Cruise did the motorcycle stunt off of
Rock.
That's he did a motorcycle stunt into a base jump off of Pulpit Rock, which was pretty insane. But no, I was kidding with you. Yeah, you're right. I think the Norwegians would probably be like, yeah, send some people somewhere else. So, we want to have sustainable tourism here. So, all right, well, give us another spot. We're on a number 4
how about this
now.
one? This one's pretty good. So I have been there, unfortunately, before COVID, but I was there before, and I've always loved it. Montevideo, Uruguay, instead of Buenos Aires. So they're basically across the Rio de la Plata, right? They've got all sorts of, I like to describe Buenos Aires, which is the capital of Argentina, and Montevideo, which is the capital of Uruguay, as frenemies, right? Like in a Real Housewives episode. So, they tell jokes about each other. Their soccer teams compete with each other. They're fierce rivals, and there's just insults and all sorts of things that get traded back and forth. Although, there's about 120,000 Uruguayans who live in Argentina, and then Argentinians go to their sort of Hamptons, which is Punta del Este, which is in Uruguay. So there's a lot of back and forth. The city of Montevideo is this wonderful, it's built in the Belle Epoque, which was, of course, the era in the 1890s when both Uruguay and Argentina. And one of the things about travel, you keep coming into history all the time, right? You can't escape it. But at about the turn of the 20th century, Argentina and Uruguay were booming because why, Jason? I'm being a professor. Do you know why?
Which year again were you
about 1890s to be right around the time of the World War One. 1914, that era was a golden era for both these two countries.
Oh, some kind of crop, I'm guessing?
You're getting close, and some kind of technology. So the technology was both speedy steamships and refrigeration. And what needs to be refrigerated to get from point A to point B without spoiling? And clue, you have vast amounts of treeless pampas in both countries. What can you raise there?
Some kind of fruit?
Cattle. Beef.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, beef. Yeah.
So they became major suppliers. Both of these two countries became major suppliers to Europe for beef and meat. And what happened was they got lots of money came in. They were able to transform these capitals. So it feels a little bit like Barcelona, a little bit like Paris, but very still much in the Western Hemisphere, right? In South America. again, in the southern hemisphere, you have summer and winter and summer, and it's a fairly mild climate. And you've got the beach town of Punta del Este, 80 miles away. It's a very tolerant, open place. I think Uruguay was one of the first places to legalize marijuana, decriminalize homosexuality in 1934. So it's always been this laid back sort of progressive place. Surprising, because we always think maybe South Americans are a little more conservative. It's a great place to just walk around. You can stroll on the beachfront promenade called La Rambla, of course, and go to the Jewish Center and Old Town. And of course, I've got to warn vegetarians, Uruguay is very carnivorous because of all the beef, right? But you smell that, grilling. It's like, your neighbor constantly, everybody's grilling meat. So my mouth was watering all the time. And, you smell sweet peppers and, onions, and they do potatoes. There's just about a gazillion ways to eat beef, from sandwiches to platters of it. You've never seen, these are Texas-sized portions. At any rate, it's a fabulous city to explore and poke around, and so overlooked. Everybody knows BA, right? We even abbreviated BA like LA, right? But Montevideo is really an undiscovered gem. So it's got these crazy wild skyscrapers. I'm thinking of the Palacio Salvo, which is in the Independence Square, their Plaza Independencia, and you can't believe it. It's like the Fox Theater. They put everything into it. I call it a bowerbird's nest. That's because it's got everything stuck to it. So it's a great place. So a fabulous city.
All right, this is a great list so far, Andrew. I want to respect your time because I know we're coming up on the end here, but maybe you can lay one more on us so we can make it a nice even 5.
Oh, I would an even 5. Okay, I have not heard an even 5 before.
No, but, I've never said that before, but I'm amusing myself here. An odd 5 doesn't sound right, so even though that's what it is.
Okay, so the one I wanted to, I think, talk about, and I do this because I always hear this from people who go, I am coming from London, I am coming from Caracas, I am coming from Tokyo, and I'm coming from Iowa, and I'm going to Los Angeles, and I want to go to Hollywood. I say, great, go to Hollywood. Hooray for Hollywood, right? But when they get there, they're disappointed because somehow, we all have these images in our mind of what Hollywood should be like. I think basically the Rat Pack with Sinatra and Dean Martin, and it's all very cool, and lots of palm trees, and these low-slung fabulous houses and things like that. But that Hollywood disappeared a long time ago. There's parts of Los Angeles that are fantastic. In my book, I talk about East LA and how people should explore it. But if you want that kind of, I guess, Mad Men era glamour, look east about 2 hours away, or hour and a half if the traffic's good, and go to Palm Springs and the surrounding desert community in the Coachella Valley, Greater Palm Springs. They still have that great essence of what made Hollywood so magical, which is this combination of sun, sex, sin. I don't know if, what is sin anymore. There's no gambling. Well, maybe there is. Wait, there's a casino there, because of the Native American tribes. But really, it's this amazingly over-the-top combination of swimming pools. Boy, I'm doing the alliterative S's, aren't I, Jason, here? But what's really great about Palm Springs is also people don't realize that beyond it are these amazing mountains. Mount San Jacinto is basically rises more than 8,500 feet, and you can get to it on the Palm Springs tramway. So you can go up to the top and it's snowing, and down in the valley, it's 100 degrees. It's this amazing contrast. It's kind of like Southern California in an accessible nutshell that I think is so great about Palm Springs. And the hotels are so over the top. So if you go to Palm Springs, just go into the lobby bars of some of these hotels, and you'll just have these great, like the Colony Palms, Holiday House, and the Parker Palm Springs, which has got it's fabulous decor, what you would think of as the whole Mad Men era. So you really feel like you're your own star. Of course, everybody is wearing sunglasses, so you should too. So it's really great. As a matter of fact, they even have an entire week called Modernism Week, which celebrates all this architecture from the 1950s. Actually, it's been so popular, I think it's now Modernism 2 weeks, so not just one. It's very, very cool. So that's the other thing I'd suggest. So anybody coming to Southern California might want to poke around and visit the desert. The traffic is not as bad as LA. How's that? We'll leave it at that.
That's great, man. I mean, I'll remind people the book is Here, Not There, 100 Unexpected Travel Destinations. Give you a little sneak peek. It's got some of the contents. You have chapters like the new icons, romantic recalibrations. You've got unexpected history, some big name surprises, just to name a few. And then you're going to find some recommendations that are substitutes for places like, I think you got some recommendations for places to go instead of Florence, for example, or some of the more crowded places in Indonesia and Hawaii, alternatives and all this stuff. So anyway, yeah, congratulations. Yeah, we'll link up to all that in the show notes. I did have two more questions to close it out. First, I read that your most satisfying accomplishment was restoring an old adobe in Big Bend by hand in Texas. Can you talk about that and why? I mean, you've written books for National Geographic, you're doing all this stuff. Why, restoring this old adobe by hand? Why do you consider that your most?
It's a long story, but at the time of 9/11, I was living in San Francisco. On September 10th, 2001, I took a nonstop from San Francisco to New York and was staying with friends just about a mile in Soho. Do you know New York at all on West Broadway? Full view of the World Trade Towers, which of course came down. And so the next day, never saw 9/11 happen on the TV. Saw it happen right there, and in front of me, and between helping people and looking at all this confusion that was going on, it sort of puts a lot of things into perspective. So basically, I just said, I want to escape cities for a while. I need to clear my head. So I moved to Big Bend, an area near Big Bend National Park, near Alpine. Eventually purchased a house that came with an authentic adobe and decided to restore it. So literally mixed the lime, put everything put all the ingredients together, and started repairing all the walls. It's the most satisfying thing in the world to build your own house. And of course, low carbon footprint, right? These are basically, it's earth and lime. And in the old days, horsehair. They used to bind everything together with people's hair, which created as a sort of a binder. We didn't do that. Perhaps we should have, but it was a great experience. And there's nothing like building the walls of your own house by hand.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you. And if you want to leave us with, is there any quote you're living by, a favorite quote, or life motto or anything like that you want to leave us with?
Life motto. That's a really interesting quote. And I would just say, walk, look, and listen, and you will learn a lot.
Perfect.
How's that?
Wonderful. We'll end it there. Thanks again, Andrew.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Take care. There you have it. Thank you to Andrew Nelson for stopping by the show. Congrats on the book Here, Not There, published by National Geographic. I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of this type of content out there if you're not already, because it is getting a little bit sad when places get loved to death. And I have heard several times as I've been recording this podcast over the last year or two how some of these destinations have been overrun just because they've been, for example, or one example, shared on social media. Overshared, maybe. And then people are curious and they flock, and I get it. You want to see the waterfall you saw on Instagram or whatever. Totally makes sense. And I'm not here to dissuade anybody from their travel dreams. That's the opposite of what we do here. But I do think that before we kind of visit these places and understand that, yeah, some of these places we're okay. We're going to accept that we're going to be with the masses. But, you know, it's good to maybe take a beat too and think, hey, do we want to spend our time and money to be in that atmosphere? And maybe the answer is yes. Cool. But I do think when you're planning your trips and you're working so hard to save money and take your time to go on a trip, alternative destinations is kind of idea of here, not there. It's a good mindset to kind of go into travel planning with, I think, just to have that openness of like, hey, what would it look like if we, spent less time in Paris and we, instead of spending a week in Paris, maybe we only spend 3 days there and we go somewhere else. What might that look like? And just kind of asking those questions and considering, I think, can be a good mindset to go into your trip planning with. And I'll leave you with a quick story and then a quote. I had an alternative destination experience last year, and it was funny, as I mentioned at the top, it wasn't really related to the destination at all because these two destinations aren't even remotely alike, but it was related to the experience that I wanted to have and didn't want to spend a ton of money for. And for this particular trip, took place in the winter. I live in Norway, as some of you may know. And I'm trying to do this thing where, like, every other year I take one of my kids, just me and them, so like together, just us, on a trip, not the whole family, just so I can have one-on-one time. And it was my son's turn, and I've been talking about taking a trip with him. And of course I was looking at, Spain or Portugal or something like this where we can get some sun because it's a long winter here in Norway. It's a lot of darkness and you want some sun. And then I kind of was thinking about this and I realized, that's what I want. But what he really wants and what would be fun for him is to just have access to swimming. It could be a beach, it can be a pool, whatever. And so I kind of flipped everything and just thought, look, this whole Spain thing is really expensive. And we decided to go to Estonia. So we went to Tallinn. I found this spa hotel that was very affordable because it was like February in the winter. And it had indoor swimming and like a water park and all this stuff. And so I was able to get us flights and a hotel and all that for a fraction of the cost. And really, the trip was about us being together and swimming every day and us being together. And yeah, it would have been nice to do that on a Spanish beach, I'm not going to lie. But we had a great time. He didn't know the difference. And I got to check out a cool city in off season, not a lot of tourists there. And it was a really cool experience. It was cold, but it was cool. The pool was warm and heated. Anyway, I'm bringing this up because sometimes we're looking at these alternative destinations and we're comparing the destinations, but maybe sometimes the alternative destination is built around the experience you want to have, and you're just alternating a different place to have that experience. In our case, just swimming and being together. We didn't have to be on a Spanish beach to swim and be together. So just wanted to share that because, again, I like to share these things. Maybe it opens up some ideas for you. I have no idea where you're at when it's hitting your ears, but figure it's worth sharing. I'm going to leave you now with a quote. Thanks for spending time with me today. I do appreciate this community so much. And if you haven't signed up for our newsletter over there at zerototravel.com/newsletter, you can sign up. I send out a free newsletter once a week. Usually have some fun travel-related links, some musings, and some discount things, and some brands I like, and all that sort of stuff. So check it out and sign up over there if you'd like. Okay, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Buddha coming out of the quote drawer here, who said, "All that we are is the result of what we have thought, what we think we become." Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.